What happens when a 74-year-old veteran simply mops his kitchen floor and his family decides he's a danger to himself? What happened next left not just his son, but even the doctor, completely speechless. They say life slows down after 70. What they don't tell you is how fast it tries to kick you out the moment you stop running. My name's George. I'm 74. Widower. Retired postal worker. The kind of guy who still separates his recycling and tips the grocery boy even when my hands are shaking. I live in a house I paid off with 40 years of my spine and knees. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. That morning started like any other. A bit of joint pain, some back stiffness, and the comforting sound of my tea kettle screaming like it's mad at the world. Same as me. I made my oatmeal, patted my cat Rusty on the head, and looked out the window. It was 6:07 a.m., and my son's wife, Deborah, was already standing in my garden, arms crossed like a prison guard. The way she looked at me, you'd think I was sneaking out to rob a bank. "You're up early." "Again," she said flatly. "Good morning to you too," I muttered. "George, we've talked about this. All the stomping around, the faucet noises, it wakes us up. Now let me pause here. My son Brian and his wife moved in 6 months ago, just until they got back on their feet. And by on their feet, they meant off mine. They sleep in until noon, live off takeout, and treat my house like a rent-free Airbnb. I nodded politely, the way old men do when they're boiling inside, but too tired to start another argument. "I'm just making tea, Deborah." "Well, maybe don't. It's loud. Imagine being told not to make tea. In your own damn house." She walked away without another word, and I swear Rusty looked at me like, "You gonna let her talk to you like that?" That day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I walked to the local shelter with a bag of pet food. Rusty doesn't eat much anymore, just sleeps and blinks like he's meditating. But I saw a flyer in the pharmacy. Local shelter needs supplies. Help us feed the forgotten. I guess that hit me harder than I expected. The forgotten. That felt personal. So I carried that heavy bag through the park, down 2 streets, and into that little shelter on Pine Avenue. The young girl at the front, name tag said Tasha, looked surprised. "Sir, you carried this here?" "What? You think I'm just decoration?" She laughed, then paused. Thank you. Most people don't bother." I smiled. Not a big one. Just the kind of smile you allow yourself when your back hurts, but your soul feels all right. I walked back slowly, winded but proud. Thought I'd get home and finally enjoy that tea. Maybe sit in my chair and feel useful for once. But when I walked in, Brian was waiting in the living room like a debt collector. "Dad, Deborah said you were out all morning. You didn't tell us where you were going." "Excuse me? Since when do I report my errands to you?" "It's just, you can't just disappear." Deborah got worried. Worried? She was too busy checking her phone to care whether I was alive or dead yesterday. "I brought food to the shelter," I said, shrugging. "You what?" He frowned. "Why are you wasting money like that? You live on a fixed income." Now here's the kicker. This man, this adult man-child, who hasn't paid a utility bill in half a year, is telling me how to budget? "You think $15 worth of dog food's gonna bankrupt me?" I asked. He sighed dramatically, the way lazy men do when pretending to be stressed. "We're trying to build a future here, and you're buying kibble for mutts." Something cracked in me, not loudly, just enough for me to realize I wasn't their father anymore. I was their burden, their free roof, their background noise. That night, I heard them arguing behind the closed door. He's getting unstable, Deborah hissed. He's just old, Brian muttered. Exactly. What if he falls or sets something on fire? We've got to think about the baby. Baby? Oh, right. They were trying. As if this world needs more people who confuse entitlement with family values. I lay in bed, eyes open, heart racing. Not from fear, from rage. The kind of quiet, white-hot anger that builds when you're told your presence is an inconvenience in your own home. I didn't sleep. At 5:30 a.m., I got up again. Boiled water. Stared at the cup like it owed me something. I added a spoon of honey, for the bitterness, not the flavor. And that's when it happened. Pain. Sharp. Like a hot nail driven into my chest. I dropped the spoon. My knees buckled. I grabbed the counter, breathing like I was drowning in the air itself. I stumbled to the floor. Cold tiles against my cheek. Heart beating like a faulty engine. I heard them talking upstairs. Heard Deborah laugh at something stupid Brian said. Heard my name. No one came down. No one. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unfolds. Because trust me, it only gets worse from here. When I came to, I was lying on the cold linoleum floor, staring at a cobweb in the corner of the ceiling. Funny, the things your brain notices when it thinks you're dying. The pain in my chest had dulled into something that felt like a tight rubber band stretching across my ribs. Breathing hurt. Moving was worse. So, I lay there, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no door creaking open, just the faint sound of a YouTube video blaring upstairs and the occasional fake laugh from Deborah that made my skin crawl. I don't know how long I lay there before I decided to crawl. Not walk, crawl, like a wounded animal. I made it halfway across the kitchen when I saw my cell phone sitting on the dining table, 4 feet above me. 4. Damn. Feet. It might as well have been Everest. I cursed softly under my breath and used a kitchen chair like a ladder, clawing my way up inch by inch. My hand finally gripped the phone and I called 911. My voice was barely a whisper. Chest pain, 74, short of breath. That was enough. The dispatcher got it. Help was coming. Too bad it had to be called by me and not the people living 30 steps away. When the EMTs arrived, God bless those young men, they knocked. No answer. I heard them bang harder. Sir, are you inside? Back door, I groaned. They found it open. They burst in, found me curled up by the table and immediately moved into action. Oxygen mask, blood pressure cuff, ECG cables. Deborah finally came down halfway through their assessment, holding a protein shake like she was late for yoga class. What's going on? She asked, blinking as if surprised. One of the EMTs didn't even look at her. He's having a cardiac event. We're taking him to the hospital now. She didn't even ask which one. At the ER, the doctor, a man in his 40s with a receding hairline and a face that looked like it hadn't seen a day off in years, shook his head. Mr. Ellis, do you know what you did wrong this morning? Now, let me be clear. I didn't expect applause for surviving, but the way he asked that, like I'd just crashed a stolen car, rubbed me the wrong way. I woke up, I said. He smirked. At least he had a sense of humor. You took a hot shower, had tea, tried to mop the floor. All within an hour. That's way too much strain for someone your age, especially on an empty stomach. So I should... what? Sit in a chair until I rot? You should pace yourself and eat. Hydrate. Let your body warm up slowly in the mornings. Imagine that. After 70 years of dragging myself through snowstorms, double shifts and funerals, I'm told a mop is too much. But sure, message received. They kept me overnight. I had no visitors. Not one. The next day, Brian picked me up. Alone. I was wheeled out to the parking lot like a forgotten suitcase. When we got in the car, he cleared his throat. "Dad, I think we should talk." "That's never a good start." "About what?" "Your living situation." I looked out the window. "My house, you mean?" "It's not that simple. Deborah's really stressed. And with the baby coming..." "Ah, yes, the mythical baby. The one they talk about more than they prepare for. You'd think Deborah was carrying the next Messiah the way they weaponized her hormones. We think. Maybe it's time you considered assisted living. Somewhere with nurses and supervision." "Supervision? I'm not a Labrador, Brian. You just had a heart episode. It's dangerous for you to live alone." "I'm not living alone. I'm living with 2 freeloaders who ignore me until I stop breathing." Silence. He gripped the wheel tighter. I could see the veins in his forearms, the same veins I used to hold when he had nightmares as a child. "It's not personal, Dad." "Of course it's personal. You want me out of my own home. That's as personal as it gets." We drove the rest of the way in silence. When we got home, my bedroom door was closed. Deborah's doing. She'd cleaned it, which meant she'd probably gone through my drawers and dumped half my books in the garage. On my pillow, there was a brochure. Silver Willow's Senior Residence. Tagline: "Live with dignity. Age with support." I felt my hands shake. Not from weakness, from rage. They were planning this, waiting for an excuse. My heart gave them the opening they needed. One bad morning, and suddenly, I'm a liability. I made myself a cup of tea. Slowly, quietly. 1 spoon of honey, 1 bag of chamomile, sat in my chair and stared out the window. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I started to plan. They wanted me weak, helpless, out of the way. Fine, let them think that. I'd give them a show. That night, I pretended to fall asleep early. I heard them whispering in the kitchen. "He needs to go. It's for his own good. What if he has another episode? What if I do? What if I don't?" The next day, I went through the house, not loudly, not chaotically, but deliberately. I started writing down names, papers, bills, mortgage history, deed, everything. I made calls, quiet ones, to people I hadn't spoken to in years. Then I called my daughter, Lynn. We hadn't spoken much since her mother passed, but I needed someone who remembered who I used to be, not who Deborah said I'd become. "Dad," she answered, surprised, "I need you to come over." "What's wrong?" "Just come, please." She came the next day. When she walked in, Deborah's eyes narrowed like she'd seen a ghost. Brian looked like he'd swallowed a nail. "Lynn," he said flatly, "didn't know you were coming." "That's because you don't call," she shot back. "Where's Dad?" I smiled from the armchair. "Right here, pumpkin." She came over, hugged me like I was still whole, then sat down. "What's going on?" "I'm being evicted from my own life." She didn't laugh. She didn't ask for details. She just nodded. "Tell me everything." So I did. From the tea to the heart attack to the brochure on my pillow. And by the end of it, her face had gone pale. "They want to put you in a home? Are you kidding me?" "Apparently, I'm dangerous. I make tea and mop floors. Can't have that." She stood up and turned to Brian. "You're unbelievable." "Lynn, you don't understand." "No, I understand perfectly. You moved in here broke. Dad took you in, you and your wife. And now you want to lock him away because he dared to use the kitchen? It's more complicated than that." "No, it's not." Her voice was calm, cold, razor sharp. And in that moment, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. A spark, a fire, someone willing to fight. Not for me. with me. This is the turning point. Everything you've waited for is coming up next. Stick around to see how I take back what's mine and expose everything they tried to hide. You ever had someone fight for you so fiercely that it reminded you who you were before the world tried to shrink you? That was Lynn. After she tore into Brian and Deborah like a lawyer with a vendetta, she didn't wait for permission. She started moving through the house, opening cabinets, flipping through bills, calling out passive-aggressive nonsense like, "Wow, Dad, looks like someone's been using your credit card to order sushi 4 times a week." Deborah coughed in the kitchen, loudly. I sat quietly at the table, watching my daughter dig through 6 months of quiet theft, neglect, and entitlement, like an archaeologist uncovering a forgotten ruin. My life, my space, my history, treated like a trash bin with working plumbing. Lynn didn't just show up. She came with receipts. Literally. She found utilities in my name, a streaming service I didn't even know we had, and an unpaid Amazon order that included a $300 pregnancy pillow. That one almost made me laugh. Deborah had claimed they were broke. Apparently, not broke enough to sleep like royalty. "This is financial abuse," Lynn muttered. "Clear as day." "Don't be dramatic," Brian said, stepping into the room. "Dramatic?" She turned. "You're living off our father and planning to dump him in a retirement home. What part of that isn't dramatic?" Brian looked to me for backup. I didn't blink, didn't flinch. I just took a sip of my tea, lukewarm and bitter, like everything else lately, and waited for him to understand that I wasn't his to manipulate anymore. That's when the real war started. The next morning, Deborah tried the concerned daughter-in-law act. She brought me a plate of toast, buttered, cut diagonally. I hadn't seen her carry anything that wasn't her phone in weeks. "Thought you might be hungry," she said, placing the plate on the table like I was some hospice patient. "That's thoughtful," I replied, "but I'm not dying, just old. Big difference." Her smile froze. "I just want peace, George." "Peace starts with honesty, Deborah." She didn't answer, just walked off, toast in hand. Later that day, I found her crying in the bathroom, loudly, conveniently, just as Lynn walked by. "He's turning them against me," she sobbed to Brian. "He's manipulating Lynn. He's always been difficult. He plays the victim." That last part hit different. I'd spent my life swallowing my pride to keep peace. Now they were calling me the problem because I wouldn't die quietly. That night, Lynn sat me down. "Do you want them out? Is that even possible?" "Dad, it's your house." "Right. My house. My name on the deed, my sweat in every floorboard. But for months, I'd let myself be erased, day by day, like chalk on a rainy sidewalk. "I want them out," I said. "Simple, clear, final. Then we'll make it happen." It started with a notarized notice. Lynn's friend, a lawyer with a sharp suit and sharper tongue, helped us draft it. Gave them 30 days. Brian exploded. "You're evicting your own son?" "No," I said. "I'm reclaiming my dignity." Deborah packed loudly, slammed drawers, slammed doors, slammed emotions she probably hadn't felt since 2011. She called me selfish, ungrateful, dangerous. "You should be ashamed," she screamed in the hallway. "You first," I replied. Lynn chuckled from the kitchen. Brian didn't scream. He sulked. Guilt is loud, shame is silent. And he was full of both. For the next week, the house was a battlefield. Not with fists, with energy. Every room buzzed with unspoken tension, like a wire about to snap. I moved my important documents into a locked drawer. I reactivated the security cameras, the ones they disabled by accident. I bought my own groceries, cooked my own meals, took back the living room. slowly, deliberately. And I started walking again. Not crawling, not shuffling, walking. Then came the doctor's appointment. Routine, they said. Just a follow-up. But Dr. Conway, the same man who warned me about my tea and my mop, had a different tone this time. Your heart's stronger than expected. Healing nicely. Shocking, right? I said. Turns out surviving disappointment builds endurance. He smiled. I hope your family's giving you the support you need. I laughed. Too hard. Had to cough through it. They gave me a gift, actually. Clarity. Well, don't overdo it. Morning routines matter, but peace matters more. I nodded. Peace. Something I hadn't tasted in a long time. I left the clinic that day feeling taller. Not physically. My spine was still the same mess of creaks and complaints, but emotionally. Like I wasn't the burden they told me I was. I was still useful, still whole, still angry, but angry with purpose. The eviction date came. Brian didn't say goodbye. He loaded boxes in silence, like a teenager grounded for the first time. Deborah cried, not because she was sad, but because she'd lost control. The house no longer bent to her mood swings. The power was gone. As they drove away, Lynn stood beside me on the porch. You okay? Better than I've been in months. You want me to stay a while? Just the night. Then go live your life. What about you? I've still got mine. That night, the house was quiet. Not empty. Quiet. The kind of quiet you earn. The kind of quiet that tastes like justice. I made tea. 2 bags this time, extra strong. Sat in my recliner and let the silence fill every corner. I wasn't dead. I wasn't useless. I wasn't finished. This was the moment everything snapped. But we're not done yet. Stay for Chapter 4, where the fallout becomes something no one saw coming. It's not just about reclaiming your life. It's about what you do with it next. They were gone. The house was mine again. Dusty corners, leaky faucet, and all. And for the first time in months, I heard myself breathe. Not the ragged panting from that morning on the floor. Not the shallow, quiet gasps I took while tiptoeing through my own life like a trespasser. This was different. This breath was full, heavy, free. But freedom's a funny thing when you're 74. It doesn't come with balloons or confetti. It comes with silence. Dishes that stay clean. Blank spaces where passive-aggressive Post-it notes used to be. A fridge that's actually full. A chair that doesn't smell like perfume I never wore. Peace is louder than noise. I'd forgotten that. Lynn stayed a few extra nights, cooked, cleaned, even dragged me to the grocery store, where she proudly announced to the cashier, "My dad just kicked out 2 parasites and survived a heart scare. Ring up the steak, he earned it." The cashier raised an eyebrow, smiled awkwardly, and bagged the meat. When we got back, Lynn looked at me while putting away vegetables. "What now?" "Now," I said, "we live." "Just like that?" "Not just like that. Nothing's just like that at my age. I stretch first." "But yes." We laughed. Not politely, not nervously. We laughed like people who'd both survived something ugly and weren't pretending otherwise. That night, I sat down at the kitchen table with a pen and a stack of legal pads. The old kind, yellow with blue lines. The kind they used back when men still wrote things by hand and didn't trust the cloud. I started writing. Not a memoir. Not some sad apology letter to the world. I wrote a list. What no one tells you about getting old. For 1, people assume your time is no longer yours. Or 2, family doesn't always mean loyalty. 3, silence is never peace if it's forced. 4, Pity feels a lot like control when it's dressed up with concern. 5. Independence isn't selfish. It's survival. The next morning, slowly, mindfully, with a sandwich in my gut and socks on my feet like a good boy, I went back to the shelter. Rusty rode in the basket. He yawned the whole way like he couldn't care less. I cared enough for both of us. Tasha was there. Same girl from before, still smiling like she hadn't let the world make her bitter yet. "Mr. Ellis, you're back." "Told you I'd return." Old guys never break a promise. We just walk slower toward it. She laughed, then frowned slightly when she saw the band on my wrist. The post-hospital kind. "You okay?" "Now?" "Yeah. For a while there, I wasn't." "Family stuff?" I nodded. "They say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes it's also stickier and toxic." "You want to volunteer today?" "I'd like that." So I did. I fed dogs, sat with a blind terrier named Amos, helped organize donations, moved like a man who remembered why he still had 2 hands. Afterward, I went to the small community center down the block, signed up for a class. Writing Your Legacy, autobiography for seniors. The lady at the front desk looked at me like I might be lost. "This for your grandson?" "No," I said. "It's for the old guy with more story than time left." 1 week later, I got mail. Not bills, a letter, a real one, handwritten, with shaky penmanship and too many exclamation points. From Deborah. "George, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much we hurt you. Things got out of hand. We thought we were helping. I hope someday you can forgive us." No dear, no love, just a signature and a messy heart drawn next to her name like a high schooler trying to look sincere. I read it twice, then folded it and placed it in a drawer. Forgiveness? Maybe. Re-entry? Not a chance. Some bridges aren't burned. They're detonated. On purpose. Because you finally see they only led to places where you were never safe. Weeks passed. The house got quieter. But it never felt lonely. Just calm. I cooked more. Read old books again. Even cleaned out the attic, where I found a box of letters from my wife. The real one. The one who never made me feel like I had to ask permission to exist. I sat and read them all in one afternoon, Rusty asleep beside me. Her words hit different now. Software fierce, unapologetically loving. And in one of them, I found this. "When you're old, promise me you'll never let anyone treat you like a ghost in your own home. You've spent your life being solid. Stay solid." I framed that one, hung it in the hallway where anyone coming through my door could see it. A warning, a reminder, a prayer. People think aging means fading. They're wrong. Aging means refining, boiling away all the extra noise until only the essential you remains. And the essential me? I'm still here. I make tea every morning, on purpose. I mop my own damn floors. I write things down that matter. And I do it all without asking for permission. If you're over 70 and someone tells you to slow down, ask them why they're so afraid of your strength. Don't let the morning routines they mock become the life they try to erase. You're not done. Not by a long shot.